In this video, I will go over the got it question from section 4-1. Now I will do this for each of the sections, but it's very important that after you watch the video segment that you try the got it questions. Okay, and then at the very end you can watch this video, and I want you to use a different color pen to correct those got it questions, okay, and also write off to the side why the new answer is the correct answer. Okay, in question 1 we're asked what are the congruent corresponding parts. Now you can do this from either drawing a picture or just by looking at the order of the letters. Okay, so by looking at the letters, I know that segment WY is congruent to segment MK. Okay, I know that YS is congruent to KV. Okay, and that WS is congruent to MV. Okay, now concerning angles, I know that W is congruent to M, angle W is congruent to angle M, and angle Y is congruent to angle K, and angle S is congruent to angle V. Okay, and those are the congruent corresponding parts. Now, if you have these in a different order, that's fine. If you have, these in a different order, that's fine as well. But you should identify the corresponding segments and the corresponding angles and say that they are congruent to each other. The next one says, suppose that triangle WYS is congruent to triangle MKV. If the measure of angle W is 62 and the measure of angle Y is 35, then what is the measure of angle V? Okay, now I'm going to draw a picture because I think it'll be easier. Draw a picture. Okay, I'll call this WYS, and then in the same order, MKV. Now it tells us that W is equal to 62 and angle Y is 35. Okay, and we want to find the measure of angle V, okay, which is this angle over here. So I will use the same method that was used in the video, and I'll first find the measure of angle S. Okay, and since S and V are corresponding parts, they must be congruent. Okay, now we find S because 180 minus 62 is 118, minus 35 is 83. So this is 83 degrees, and because angle S is congruent to angle V, the measure of angle V must also be 83 degrees. All right, number 3, is triangle ABD congruent to triangle CBD? Now we have a picture over here, and all that we know is that AD is congruent to DC because of these marks right here. Okay, now we also know that BD is congruent to itself by the reflexive property. Okay, but we don't have enough information to know that all the corresponding sides and all the corresponding angles are congruent, and so we would say not enough information. Okay, in the last got it question, we're actually doing a proof. Now, in the past, in the last couple of chapters, proofs have been kind of a nice to know for tests and quizzes and things. In chapter 4, proofs are a need to know. You will need to be able to prove that triangles are congruent. Okay, so in section 4-1, we're looking at using the definition of congruent to prove that triangles are congruent. So I'll start, like I do always, with the given. Angle A is congruent to angle D. AE is congruent to DC. EB is congruent to CB. And BA is congruent to BD. Okay, now the reason is it's given. Now it's nice that everything there is labeled for us in the picture. Okay, now we don't have all, we do have all the sides, but we don't have all the angles. Okay, so I need to figure out some for reasons for some of the other angles. Okay, now the first one that I notice is this one right here. Okay, now these are vertical angles, so they must be congruent. So I'll say that angle ABE is congruent to angle um, DBC, and the reason is by the vertical angles theorem. Okay, but I need to know that angle E is congruent to angle C. Okay, and the reason for that is this new theorem we just talked about, the third angles theorem. Okay, so I know that angle E is congruent to angle C, sorry, angle C, by the third angles theorem. Okay, now I have all the corresponding parts are congruent to each other. So these two triangles must be congruent by the definition of congruent triangles. I should say congruent polygons. Okay, and that's it for the got it questions in section 4-1.